This is FYI, conversations with interesting people about fascinating projects happening in Ohio.
I'm JT Burcham, and welcome to FYI. Today, we have an interesting person. I promise you will not be disappointed. I am so honored to have Wendel Deyo. How are you today, sir?
I am fine. Thank you very much.
Deyo, I did
Deyo,
say.
yes,
okay.
sir, you got it.
Wendel, I ran into you the other day at a groundbreaking for the new John Wooden Family Field House at Athletes in Action. Real quick, just talk about your involvement with Athletes in Action. You didn't tell me all the tricks when I first met you. You've been involved with Athletes in Action for a significant position and significant time.
Well, on and off, yeah. I was a college student when I came to Christ, and when I found about Athletes in Action, I was playing college football and baseball, and nothing could excite me more to think that I could use athletics for the cause of Christ. And so came on staff with Athletes in Action way back in 1972. Started out at Kansas State University working with athletes there. They moved us to Southern California, worked with athletes there. While we were there, I ended up being pulled into the office to work as an assistant to the director in charge of special projects. But I have to be honest with you, I'm not an office guy and I'm not an administrator, but that's what I was called in to do. I felt like a little bit like the rug was pulled out from under me. And so that was 1973 going into 74. And right there at the beginning of 74, they say, we need somebody to go to a conference in Chicago where they're bringing together Canadian Football League professional athletes and National Football League. And that was, for me, this is what a blessing. I'm getting out of the office and I get to go be with people.
Yeah.
While I was there at dinner one night, I was answering a guy who was an all-pro linebacker from the Canadian Football League, had been an All-American at Auburn University. And I felt God tugging on my heart. I went up to my room, got on my knees, and the Lord told me he wanted me to start a ministry to professional athletes.
Interesting.
So I got back home in California. I told the boss, I said, either we do it or I leave. And 6 months later, 5 of us set out to pioneer or work with professional athletes.
Interesting. And that is what became, the Athletes in Action you were already a part of.
I was part of the field ministry and gone from campus. Then we were working with coaches. And now all of a sudden, beginning in 73, I became chaplain for the Cincinnati Reds and the Cincinnati Bengals. And I did that gig for 17 years.
Yeah. Well, that's how I met you. I'm setting up a PA at the field house for the ribbon cutting and all that. And a young man says, are you a Reds fan? Of course, I'm wearing my Reds hat. I said, yes, I am. He says, how long have you been a Reds fan? I said, well, since Bench and Rose. And that's where you told me your secret identity.
Well, and Pete Rose stuck his head in chapel. He did not like chapel. He did not like Christians. And it was an awkward situation for him, not for me. I tried to seize the opportunity. So I said, I'll be quiet. And so he got ready to leave. And I said, I don't understand, Pete, why you don't come to chapel. You're the only athlete that I know whose name is in the Bible. And he said, what are you talking about?
Oh.
So I said, wait a minute. I showed him right here in the book of Acts. He looked at it and said, oh, that says Peter arose. That's the best I could do, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
So I was in there, but here's another thing that was kind of fun. So I get, the Lord, in essence, took me to a conference, but he had put me in an office, right? But he pulled me out. Now I have a Bible study with a bunch of the Reds. Sparky Anderson. Sparky asked, can this guy sit in too? I said, you're the boss, coach, whatever, right? And so afterwards, this guy wrote a wonderful article from a Dayton newspaper in the sports pages on religion in the clubhouse. And I mean, we had over a third of the guys there. Sparky was there, and we were doing Bible study 2 times in a home stand. Guys are home for 10 days and they're away for 10 days, right? And so anyway, I get a call from the general manager's office. And I'm all excited because George Foster was going to try to get me a parking pass. I think this is it. So I do the Cincinnati Reds thing. I get my hair cut. I put on my business suit. I'm polishing my shoes. This is important for the image. And when I get up, she says, the GM will have you. Well, I walk in, stick out my hand to shake his hand, and he doesn't shake my hand. He rips me apart. He shreds me up and down. It was a guy named Dick Wagner at the time, and not known for his great personality. And a few years later, he's burned in effigy. But he kicks me out of the clubhouse. And anyway, the phone rings, and he said, "Well, excuse me." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, get out and close the door." So I go out, close the door, sit down. I don't know whether to cry. I don't know what to do. The receptionist is embarrassed. She's got her head down. A minute later, she says, "You can go back in now." Well, that time I had time enough to pray. God gave me a little bit of a holy boldness. I go back in and I sit down instead of standing in front of his desk. And he rips me for a little bit more and says, "You can go now." And I said, "Well," he said, "I'm done." I said, "Well, I'm not." I said, "These guys have problems with drugs. These guys have marital problems. They don't hang their problems on the coat hook when they take off their clothes and put on their uniform. I'm here to do you a favor. I believe that we can win more games if we've got guys getting their act together with their life." And so we started to exchange, and it became a lot more of a healthy thing.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking out, I just turned back and said, "If you were to die today, would you know that you're going to heaven?" And he starts into, "I've been a really, really good person," and all that. And I just basically said, all our works of righteousness are as filthy rags in his sight. Unless you've given your heart to Jesus, you don't have a prayer. Thank you for your time. Thank you to Commissioner Bowie Kuhn, who said we can do chapel every Sunday for every team. And so until he was gone, I was out again. Felt like the rug was pulled out from under me again, right? Only this time I began to develop a little camp for some of our staff and some of the athletes we're working with to teach them how to integrate biblical principles into their competition. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't been locked out. And now, 48 years later or whatever, those camps are going all over the world. It's called the Ultimate Training Camp. And there are athletes everywhere, college and professional, who take a week out just to learn how to integrate it. So I'm just trying to tell people out there, if a door closes, if it feels like you're getting fired or whatever's falling apart, just remember this. If it's not good yet, he's not done yet. That's Romans 8:28 in a simple vernacular. If it's not good yet, he's not done yet. Keep your eyes on Jesus.
So real quick, before we leave the Big Red Machine, any other Big Red Machine stories of faith on the bench? You guys were world champions. Those were big days in Cincinnati.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. So it's not only the Big Red Machine and that whole group, and George Foster and Ken Griffey and Doug Flynn, Daryl Cheney, and a number of other guys, Gary Nolan, whatever, that were involved, right? But you move that down the line, and there's all kinds of guys in and out always, right? Then my last year, I've got, instead of George Foster being the chapel leader, I got a guy named Paul O'Neill as our chapel leader. And I had taken Paul to, he and Nicky Saskia, first baseman, to Mexico on mission. And we're doing things in Mexico on mission and sharing the gospel with kids that are they're represented by all the little leagues in the nation of Mexico. And so it's a really cool thing. And we're getting ready to go to a fiesta, and Paul O'Neill and I and our wives, we're already on the bus, but Nick's no place. We can't find Nick. The bus is waiting and waiting to find it. I said, I'll go ahead and look for him. As soon as I get into the hotel, the elevator doors open up. He sticks out his hand and says, "Hi, I'm Nick Kasaski of the Atlanta Braves." He got traded while we're in there. We go back to the bus, and Paul O'Neill says, "Oh my goodness, I don't want anybody to know, but I'll be the chapel leader, and I'll make sure we get more guys than ever coming. But Pete will get rid of any Christians he can," and that's what just happened. Well, I'm not sure that was just what happened, right?
Mm.
But Paul O'Neill, it later is our chapel leader. And the year that the Reds go wire to wire in first place, they're losing right in the last couple of weeks, and they're within a couple games of losing that distinction of never being out of first place. And I come in with a grocery sack, a paper sack, shake it up and down, they can hear it, and it's full of Bibles. And I'm saying, without them knowing what's in there, this, gentleman, is the secret to your success. You're not going to lose this first place thing. And back from the corner is a relief pitcher who yells out, "Hershey bars!" And so I pull out the Bible and begin to tell them, this is where we're going to turn, and we're going to walk by faith. Well, obviously they end up going on, and then they sweep the playoffs, and they sweep the series, and then Paul ends up going to the Yankees and is now in the Hall of Fame. So that was my last year with him, because I transitioned from the chaplain for the Reds and the Bengals to become the director of Athletes in Action.
Okay, changing gears just a little bit. We met at the John Wooden Family Field House the other day, and I understand from a friend of yours, Alex Deuce, that there's going to be a men's conference there.
Oh, man, we are so excited. Yeah, I've not been with Athletes in Action for 20 years, although I still integrate and work with the guys and meet with the president. No, I'm with a ministry called Zoe, Zoweh.
Okay.
And we're doing what we call a Dangerous for Good.
I like that.
Retreat. It's a Dangerous for Good, all right? And it's something new. Basically, what we're all about is redeeming generational masculinity, helping guys to step back into the front lines and to play offense. I mean, we've been promised the gates of hell won't prevail against us.
Right.
But so often in our culture, in our society, men have been emasculated. So if there's any women out there listening, or there's men out there listening, you need to send your husband, or if you got a teenage son, on up, because we're going to have August the 2nd. We'll have an early dinner, and it's on us, right? There's a $50 fee, but it gets you 2 meals and a book and all kinds of great stuff, where we're going to be talking about how you can walk more closely with the Lord and become more confident in your faith, how you can identify the enemy who's been lying to you, so that you can step forward and assume the role that God's called you to.
And so that's happening in Xenia. Is that correct?
Xenia,
Yep.
Athletes in Action headquarters, Friday night, August the 2nd, Saturday morning, August the 3rd, done by noon. Just a few hours of your time, not even as long as it would take you to play a round of 18.
There we go. I heard you say $50.
$50.
Where do folks go to register?
They can go. They can go online to Zoe. They can look up Dangerous for Good.
Dangerous for Good.
And,
okay.
And we'll have information out at different places. Maybe we can get a few spots down the line to encourage them here.
See what we can do there. Yeah.
Boy.
Wendel, time flies when we're having fun. I sure appreciate you being here today, and so neat to hear your stories of sharing faith across your lifetime with a lot of fascinating people. It's just so cool.
My pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity.
And encouraging us to do the same. So thank you, Wendel.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. Again, Dangerous for Good is the men's conference you're looking for. Do a little Google search. You'll find it. August 2nd and 3rd, Wendel Deyo. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.